Cute little dog you've got there. But hold on. In a previous life, he could have been Rodney Dangerfield.
For the majority of my life, I really do not like dog media. With the exceptions of, like, Pound Puppies and the Twisted Whisker Show, I just don't like dog media. There's stuff which I really don't like the Pup Star franchise, the Marmaduke animated movie of 2021 or something, and I don't know, I just don't like dog media. And then there's ones which used to scare me, like Oliver and Company and All Does Go to Heaven. It was mainly because of the sharp teeth, but also because of the furries. I was a really sensitive kid, and I always hated sharp teeth. Special thanks to the Lion King hyenas. Oh boy, I just really wish they looked more like the weasels. The weasels from Who Framed Roger Rabbit more than anything. Because then if so, then I wouldn't be afraid. But even so, there was one dog movie which I haven't really seen. That was made by one of the main three, mainly Disney, Warner Brothers, or 20th Century Fox, etc. But this one I haven't seen as a child. But I would like to be honest and say I'm grateful that I never seen this movie as a child. This movie is called Rover Dangerfeild. I nicknamed this movie the Stupid Dog Film because I get tired of saying that title. It gets so annoying. I remember first stumbling upon this movie on Prime Video. Well, I didn't watch the movie, but I watched the trailer. But that's the only thing I watched from this film. The trailer. Like, the wolves did spook me as a child. I'll talk about them when I get into them very soon. But even back then, I just didn't really like what I seen. Fortunately, at least as I didn't see the film entirely to know what I was about to get in for. In fact, I remember first stumbling upon the trailers for Cats Don't Dance and Rover Dangerfield around the same time, so I basically had the exact same feelings towards both films. However, Cats Don't Dance isn't a bad film. In fact, it's actually quite fine. I like the way how the animals are just stand-ins for African Americans because of the way how they were treated treated in Hollywood during the 30s. And it's a pretty good way to show children of how life was like for us. Because I'm a black dude and I know black history. But even so, Rover Dangerfield I just didn't like, man. Well, I don't know. At first I thought that the main character, Rover, wasn't even voiced by Rodney Dangerfield. In fact, I had no idea who Rodney Dangerfield even was. Literally, I had no idea who he was. I thought he was voiced by Brad Garrett because he, as well as this chef from Ratatouille, who appears on the logo of this restaurant, sounds very similar to each other. In fact, I thought that was his voice. But then I discovered who Rodney Dangerfield was during circa 2023. Actually, it was 2023. But I will get into that when I get into it. But I wasn't really comfortable, mainly because of Rover's love interest, Daisy. Well, it was mainly because I was just It's mainly because I had PTSD from Sasha Lefleur from All Dogs Go to Heaven 2. But fortunately, I would have changed opinions on her design. Wait until I talk about her once I get to her. But even so, I wasn't really that comfortable with this film. Well, the trailer of this film. And then after a couple years, since 2017, I only had memories from that trailer. Well, I did occasionally look at the trailer from every now and again, but even so, I would rarely touch that film. But then, everything would change in 2023. For when I began torturing myself with dog movies to overcome them. But it got so much to the point for where I was trying to look for something, something that would bother me even more just so I can overcome it. In fact, I was originally going to overcome Rover Dangerfield, but then everything changed once I came upon the Nostalgia Critic video made in 2013. But I had no idea what I was going to go into until I randomly stumbled upon 3 crates. And that's exactly my story for where I'm at right now. I would rather not talk about it because I wrote an entire document about how my life with this film was like. But I would rather not talk about it because I had so much drama from this film, man. I'll mention it a bit once I talk about the character designs, but I would certainly not really want to talk about it at all. But at first I felt slightly neutral about this film, mainly because I was only looking at the film from the trailer. But then once I actually began to watch the film, when I had Prime Video on my TV, literally, I watched it and it's just not a good film. I'm not saying this mainly because everybody would agree with me, because there's multiple people who do not like this film, but I just don't like it because it's just not a good film. But my opinion of this film is very similar to everyone else's, but really, there's another reason why I don't like this film at all. But I have no idea of whether or not this movie was a B movie or not. Mainly because, like, movies released by Warner Brothers or any other mainstream studio has a chunk of promotion. This film doesn't really... It wasn't really that promoted that well. In fact, it was just only a poster and just only a couple bits of merchandise and stuffed animals. And even so, the merchandise is extremely run down. Quite run down. Like, some of the characters don't look right, and obviously Rover is the only character that appears in all of them. I would search for it, but I would be honest and say I would also certainly not, because that's the reason why this movie isn't like a review, like, you know, like when I actually show you what I mean, because it's a single picture of my avatar eating Rocky, you know, the main villain of this film. But I really just don't like this film at all. And one of the main reasons why is mainly because of the plot. It's kind of like if you mix Toy Story, All Does Go to Heaven, and Cars together, and then you get this piece of shit. The film is about a ugly-faced basset hound named Rover, who's enjoying gambling with his friend, a Yorkshire Terrier who looks a lot more like a Schnauzer named Eddie. They gamble, but then Rover loses, and both he and Eddie get stranded up to a dog act with 5 dogs. Then the first song happens, he goes to his owner, named Connie. Then the main villain shows up, and Rover is then... Well, he's very protective of Connie, but the real reason is unknown. But all we know is that Eddie, or Rocky, is just this... I don't know, I would talk about him a little more when I get to him. But anyways, he and Eddie then come upon him in his little group, or gangster group, and then Rover wakes up, and then, well, his owner is going on like some sort of road trip or whatever, and then her toxic boyfriend Rocky then captures Rover and throws him in the river. Then Rover gets fished out by fishermen. Then he gets stranded onto a farm where he runs into a stampede of sheep, and then comes upon a farmer and his son who just adopt Rover for a temporary bit. And then Rover causes havoc on the farm and meets all the farm animals, yada 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 yada. And then he meets a female Sheltie. Yeah, she's not a collie. You can just tell by the way how she barks and how big she is. He sings a song and flirts with her, and then gets in trouble. Then Daisy then comes back. And then, yeah, then the movie just happens to be like Rover getting into trouble, and then Rover then... Well, the film would pick up again once this pack of 3 wolves then shows up. and kill the turkey, and then Rover is just he's just put down. I mean, he doesn't die, but he's forced to be put down, which is extremely stupid, actually. Then the wolves come and attack the stupid farmer, and then Rover kills them all, making a bunch of Little Bo Peep and Three Little Pigs references. Then Rover is considered a hero, brought back to Las Vegas, and then has his revenge on Rocky, who dies getting thrown off. Over Dam, and then Rover gets tired of being in Las Vegas, and then just goes back onto the farm. The end. And then he realizes that he actually has children, and then the end. I know there's many people who enjoyed this movie, like my mom, but I really do not enjoy this at all. It's mainly because, Rover as himself, but it's also because there's a lot of wasted potential. There's this dog act with 5 dogs in crates called Carmine's Canines, and what makes me extremely unhappy, and the reason why that's wasted potential is mainly because the characters are just there. Only 2 of them speak. The other 3 they're just there. Like, they're NP freaking Cs. They talk, but they don't actually say anything, actually. Like, there's literally no lip sync coming out of those characters. And I keep hearing them talk, even though they're literally not speaking. It's kind of like a Max Fleischer cartoon, where the majority of the characters in those cartoons don't have lip sync, but they chatter, and it gets really annoying after a while. In fact, I don't even know which one is even speaking. Like, it's really hard to tell, actually. But Carmine's Canines should have taught children about how dog acts are, and how much of animal cruelty those dogs have to suffer. Like, that's what they should have been. But all they are they're just there. Just other characters for Rover and Eddie to interact with once Rover sings "It's a Dog's Life and I Love It." But yeah, that is just the problem with this movie. Like, there's so many wasted potential. Like, all the characters are just NPCs all the dogs in Las Vegas are just NPCs. And it's quite distracting and quite sad, actually, because there's multiple designs, but I would say that they're not good designs. But all I know is that they have designs and they look like they have character, but the problem is we barely get to know them and we don't even get their true colors. Like, how come that movie could have been like that? Like, how come we don't see the Schnauzer or the Yorkie named Eddie just fall in love with one of those dogs? And the movie can just be about them. But, like, yeah, it just has to be a character getting stranded on a countryside setting, which is extremely sad. Because that's, like, the most uninteresting part of the film. The farm, obviously. It's just, I don't know, I just don't really like this overall idea. Look, the reason why it reminds me a bit of, like, Toy Story is mainly because of, like, there's a lot of characters in the beginning who don't get too much screen time, but we do know who they are. But in Toy Story, all the other characters or other toys, like Rex, Mr. Potato Head, Slinky Dog, etc., all have their own voices, and we all know their true colors, especially Rex. But unfortunately, we don't have a clue of how the dogs in Las Vegas are. We know how they look like, and some of them speak, but they're just there. They're just there, and it makes me wonder why they even have names. But the movie reminds me a bit of Cars a little more. Like, the movie starts off with, like, the main character doing what he's good at, then getting stranded in the country, and then getting back to the area where he's supposed to be in, and then goes back to live in the country. But compared to Cars, there's a lot more characters in the country, Radiator Springs, than in like the more inhabited area, which is Las Vegas if it were this film. But like, I don't know. Well, the film reminds me a lot more of All Those Go to Heaven than both of those combined, because there's multiple character designs that look very similar. Like there's a bulldog in a shirt. There's there's like an ugly purple dog, and then there's sexy. Then there's like a sexy dog, and then there's like a collie. Then there's like a female collie. Yeah, that sounds very similar to All Those Go to Heaven, because it has all four of those things I just mentioned. Like, it's just like those three films combined, but far, far worse than all three of them. The other reason why is that the plot just sucks. Like, it just overused. Like, I mean overused. If the movie was more about, like, Rover trying his hardest to get back, like what some of the descriptions say about this film, then this would actually be okay. Like, Rover at least trying to get back, and probably leaving the country and going back to the city and meeting a lot of characters along the way. Like, that would have been fine. But no, we have to stay on this farm. Well, I will talk about the real problem once I get to it, but it's just so tedious. The other problem are just the songs. The songs in this movie are just terrible. Like, Rodney Dangerfield cannot sing at all. Well, there's only 2 songs that I think are fine, like I'm in Love with the Dog Next Door. The instrumentals aren't too bad. And, When I Met a Clover, I Found Rover is not a very bad end credits song that plays in the middle of the movie, something like, the end credits versions of, Somewhere Out There, Can You Feel the Love Tonight, and, A Whole New World. But even so, the songs in this movie are just terrible. Like, literally. Well, It's a Dog's Life and I Love It is just mediocre. I'll Never Do It on a Christmas Tree. I mean, no. That one's like the second worst song. But what I was trying to say is, I'll Give Up a Bone for You is just mediocre as shit, man. I'll Never Do It on a Christmas Tree is just so random, and it just doesn't even make sense. It would be a little bit better if this song was more supposed to make fun of movies like this, but no, it's a G-rated film, which is also a musical. And the worst song in this movie is Somewhere There's a Party, and this song doesn't make me sad at all. It just makes me troll. Like, it's so stupid, and it's just so random, too. Like, the lyrics are pretty bad, the singing is pretty bad. Well, the visuals aren't too bad, but I'll talk about it when I get to it. But it's just, I don't know. The songs in this movie are just tedious. The instrumental music's fine, at least. It's directed by the same exact composer of The Brave Little Toaster, and also Ice Age, the first one. And it's David Newman. And his music is not too bad, but it's not to save this film, though. I would originally say the animation would be the worst part, but it's not really the worst part. But I don't like the animation, though. Like, for one thing, the animation is really inconsistent. And other times the animation is just about as good as, like, a Disney film. Other times the animation is trying its hardest to be, but its flaws kick in with, like, a bunch of errors and stuff. The animation looks like it's good, but really is not good. And then the animation can just be really cheap. It's not the cheapest animation I've seen. Like, I've seen far worse in, like, Perry the Pelican and some Care Bears episodes. Mainly Care Fair Scare. But, like, the animation here is just, it's good enough to be in a TV show, but even so, it's just not good enough to be in a theatrical film. For when the animation gets cheap, the characters just, they just can get static. Like, they may move slightly, but they move like a broken animatronic. Like they move, then become static, then move, then become static, and then go right back to the frame as how they started. And others, they can just be completely static. In fact, there's like no lip sync for some of the characters. Like what I mentioned, the other three of Carmine's canines, they don't even have lip sync. And even when the animation seems like it's at least trying to be good, every single little error or little mistake coming in between it just ruins it. Like there's so many errors in this film that it just makes me extremely tired. Yet, even with the good animation, it's not nearly as great as like Disney films at that time. But even so, the bad animation is just like there's multiple films during the 90s that have like very inconsistent animation. Like sometimes the animation looks really good and other times the animation doesn't look really good. There's other films like the Care Bears movie, Fern Gully, The Last Rainforest, and several others that seem like that they don't entirely really do the animation in-house, like Disney films, despite what the online thing will say. But even so, like I don't know, maybe it's because Disney films have a bigger budget, and these films just don't have much of a big budget. And with the animation being inconsistent, the character designs are very inconsistent, some of which only appear with one animation style. You will hear me say this in my Tom and Jerry retrospective, which I'm still in production right now, but it's kind of like Tom and Jerry, because like within all the animators, there's multiple different styles, but some of them are better than others. But in this film, the animation is really inconsistent throughout. Like, I mean, very consistent, and the style's inconsistent. In fact, I can probably say there's like 14 or 5 different rover designs in this film. There's the first rover design, or the first that you will think of. Well, this rover design appears on like the poster and also during several scenes in this film, especially the beginning. This rover design he's rather chunky, he's mostly bipedal, and also his face looks a little bit like Prince Naveen as a frog, as well as Timon from The Lion King. But I don't really like this design. Well, it's not badly designed, but I don't know, I just don't really like it that much. It gets really annoying after a while looking at his face like that. Usually when that rover design appears, the animation looks like it's trying to be good, but it's just there's just so much cheap animation holding it back. But there's multiple designs that look like this design, but yeah, it's just not good in my opinion. Then there's this rover design that has a longer snout, smaller eyes, and is mostly seen on all fours, with a more basset hound-like body. I don't really like any of the designs in this film, but I would like to be honest and say that design of Rover is my favorite of his designs, mainly because it looks a lot less, obnoxious. But yet again, there's also multiple different versions of this, some of them with fatter bodies, some of which have sharp teeth. Yeah, his designs are really consistent. And the worst design in this film is basically the design that appears for, like, the last half of the film. Like, this rover design has... I don't know, I would like to say this now, and this design is just ugly. The animation when this design appears isn't terrible at all. In fact, it's actually pretty good. But even so, it does have a bit of errors. Yet, the design is freaking disgusting. Like, there's so many wrinkles. He doesn't look quite right. He's a bit fatter, and he just looks so... I don't know, he just looks messed up. But yeah, the animation in here... Well, maybe there's a reason why the animation is not necessarily really that good. It's mainly because it was done by 3 studios: Sullivan Bluth and Wang Film Company and Huno Hung Up. But the problem is, I can't tell which is which. But it's really difficult to tell of which of the animation is either or. Because, like, one, there's Wang Film Company, then there's Sullivan Bluth, then there's Huno Hung Up. Like, it's hard to tell. Like, probably the better animation could probably be Sullivan Bluth, mainly because it's made by the exact same person who made Land Before Time, The American Tail, The Secret of Nim, Don Bluth, for crying out loud. But all I know is, it's hard to tell. Maybe the animation, which is cheaper, could probably be like Wang Film Company or Huno Hung Up, because those are studios from other parts of the world. And in the TV series that they animate, like Care Bears and other 90s series, their animation can be very consistent. But it's just hard to tell on who did the bad animation. And it's also difficult to tell who did the good animation. Mainly because this movie isn't well documented like All Dogs Go to Heaven. And if it was, then I would know who to blame. The other problem with this movie are just the characters. Rover is one of the worst main protagonists I ever seen. Like, he's not nearly as, like, funny as, like, Oscar from Shark Tale, who's also not too much of a good protagonist. But even so, he's just not a good protagonist. He's greedy, he's selfish, he's way too of a jokester, he gets easily offended, he's just... I don't know, he's just not really a very good protagonist. Like, if he was a if he was flawed in the beginning, like Charlie from All Dogs Go to Heaven, then it would be fine, because then he would have a changed personality at the end. Because, like, one, he's a gamblist, he gets really offended, he gets really angry, he's just really annoying. And I do not like any of his jokes neither. They're not funny. Probably Carmine Was Reading It is kind of funny, and his best joke in this film is "I gotta get out of here." It is actually quite funny, mainly because of how stupid Rover looks in that shot. But if he was more like Charlie from All Dogs Go to Heaven, like being flawed in the beginning and then being improved at the end, that would have been a little better. But no, he does not change at all, actually. And like what I said in the beginning, like, all the dogs in Las Vegas are just there. We don't even get to know their true personalities. Well, some of them do speak, but even so, we just don't get it, though. They're just, like, there. They're, like, as if you already know these characters already. Even Carmine's Canines is just, like, one-dimensional. They're just so one-dimensional, and they like Rover's jokes. I guess don't mention it, Marcus. Sorry. I was just trying to comfort myself during this time, because I don't want to mention it. Even so, like, they're all just one-dimensional, and we don't even get to know them that well. And the humans are just, like, they're just so... I don't know. If this movie was more like a PSA trying to teach children about animal cruelty, then I would let this slide. But the humans are so cruel in this film. I guess Rover's owner, Connie, may not be too cruel, but even so, like, leaving your dog to a psycho... it's like a psycho, like a psycho gangster... That is just kind of cruel. And all the people in this film, especially that farmer, are just like, I don't know, they need to be fed to a T-Rex. Because, like, one, they have massive anger issues, and they do not care about how the animals like. Like, none of the humans are really good in this film. And not even their character designs. The farm animals are also just there, but let me tell you, I personally would rather not get to know about their true personalities, because they're just there. In fact, they are minor, and they're supposed to be minor, compared to the dogs in Las Vegas, where not supposed to be minor, but we barely get to know them, and it makes me even wonder why they even have names. The only characters I find kind of charming are the farm dogs. Well, even though we don't entirely really get to know about their true personalities too, at least as they're introduced, the border collie's fine, and Daisy is probably the best character in this film since she has an okay design, which I would actually think is cute and stuff. But like, really, like if the characters were minor, like how come they have names? Like, why give them names? But like, really, it's not only the characters being one-dimensional, it's also the character designs too. In fact, this movie is in one of the categories for like the movies that disgust me. Although originally I would say it's the dogs that disgusted me, but I got disgusted by it for an entirely different reason, and you will find out momentarily. Rover's design is just, like, it's just Rodney Dangerfield's face on a basset hound. Like, that's exactly what it is. But, like, if Rodney Dangerfield was to voice, like, a basset hound that doesn't even really look like him, then that would be perfectly fine, because I try to redesign Rover to make him look a lot more like a basset hound, as well as look at least appealing. But even so, some of the other character designs I don't necessarily care for, like Eddie's design. Well, I would probably say it's fine. It's basically just the tramp, just with really big eyes, a skinnier body, and far smaller. Like, I don't necessarily like this design too much, though, but it would look cute if he actually looked a little better. Then I discovered his earlier design, and he looks a little bit more like the tramp, with even smaller eyes and them not being spaced together. But, like, they say he's a Yorkshire Terrier, so how come they couldn't have painted his head gold and kept his body the same color, since Yorkies do come in those colors? Well-bred ones, in fact. All the other dogs in Las Vegas, I'm not really much of a really big fan of neither. Like, I'm not really a big fan of the Brozoid or this Golden Retriever looking thing. He looked a little bit more like a Brozoid in the concept artwork, though. I don't really like his design too much, and I don't entirely like the Boxer's design, even though Boxers don't come in just gray. The English Bulldog at least has the correct size, and also does look a little bit like, Spike from 1940s Tom and Jerry. Those two standard poodles, or as they're referred to the film, even though they don't really have a name in this film, in fact they don't have any names at all, the Vegas poodles look very, I don't entirely want to say it, but it's a word that I would like to be optimistic about, and yet at the same time unoptimistic about, because they look very, like, they just look very that word. And if you want to know what that word is, you can just tell on my, like, videos that made me feel that word on this playlist from, like, all the videos that gave me that word on YouTube. But either way, they look very over-sexualized, but all I know is I do not want to fuck these dogs. And in fact, I certainly do not. I'm not like the way how I was, and I am not going to become what I became. So I'd rather say that they just look very that word and just move on. Carmine's canines I'm not really a big fan of. I really do not like Bruno. In fact, I dare say, like, I really do not like this dog's design at all. Like, he looks like a black stereotype, if you ask me. Like, he's like a Shar-Pei with glasses, and I mean shades, and a purple sweater. I do not like this design at all, and if you look more like some sheepdog-like dog, then that would be fine. But I just don't like this design at all. Maybe slightly the version with the bushy eyebrows, but I really do not like this design at all, man. That design I generally hate. Then we have Queenie, and would not talk about this character in depth like in the original version of the review. Well, the original version of the review I did was, well, it was made during, like, 2023 or 2024, but all I know is back then I was far more immature and I got obsessed with Queenie a little too much, to the point where I made my own section in the review, which is my original review, which is Lost Media, unless if it's on somebody's phones, which I sent the videos towards. But even though I've butchered this dog to death, I do not like Queenie's design at all, man. Well, it's mainly because it disgusts me. It's just a Shih Tzu-like dog with purple hair and a really fat body. And I do mean chunky. Well, I would be quite tolerant of this design as long as if the creators or character designers of this film decided to go with, like, the earlier designs, where I discovered sometime in August of 2025. But if they were to leave her face, well, it does look rather similar in the final film too, but on the bright side, at least there's no lipstick, because the final design looks far uglier. She has lipstick, she has cat eyeglasses, and she looks like one of those characters, fat, ugly mothers, or fat, ugly aunts, middle-aged aunts, that give the main characters a hard time. But I've tortured myself with that character far too long, and all I can say is I really do not like this design at all, neither. It's not mainly generally hate, but it's mainly because of all the drama I had towards this character. Like, literally, I just don't like this design, and if they were to choose the original design, then I would be fine. If they were to choose, like, my personal redesign of this character, then that would also be quite fine. But instead, they chose whatever that was supposed to be. Like, this design is really ugly, really strange, and just looks like a Frankenstein creation. Like, I just don't like this design at all. Like, this design just gives me PTSD. If I were my slightly immature self from the way how I was during 2023 to 2025, or the beginning of this year, then I would go in depth and talk about this character, but I'm not going to. So I'm just gonna say I'm gonna be moving on. But really, I do not like that character design at all. But Gigi's, on the other hand, I think is really adorable. Like, she's so cute, though. At first, I had no idea what she looked like, and I was expecting that she was going to be looking a little bit just about as ugly as Queenie, but then I discovered the way how she looked like in a much better quality, and she looks quite adorable, actually. Like, her face reminds me a bit of, like, Blanky from the Brave Little Toaster, as well as, like, Arthur, kind of. And with the added DNA from Gidget from The Secret Life of Pets, but, like, she's really cute, though. It's a shame that she barely speaks, and, well, she does talk, but the problem is that she doesn't have any lip sync throughout, and I wish that she did. Plus, it would make a little more sense if she was a Cavalier, because Pomeranians can be quite vicious. But even so, she might also just be a Spitz as well, because she does look a little bigger than a Pomeranian. But even so, I really think that design is pretty cute, though. Fifi's is, I don't know. I don't know what to say about her design, but I don't really like it neither. And I really don't really like Jose's design. I have no idea if they're male or female, because originally they said that they were female because that thing was named Fifi and the Boston Terrier looking thing was named Jose. But all I know is I don't really like this design, and I think that, well, and now I'll never look at Twitchy Squirrel the same way again, because Itchy looks just like Jose, actually. Being brown, having a light brown scan under the body and big beady eyes. But I would like to be honest and say that the humans look really uncanny and not very pleasant to look at, and quite menacing as well. It's not like Clyde the Chance of Meatballs where the humans look extremely strange that makes me feel so uncomfortable and even scared. But like, the humans in this film look realistic. Not like Shrek where they look realistic but still cartoony enough to not be uncanny. But the humans in Rover Dangerfeild just look really uncanny. Especially Connie. I know they were trying to make her look hot, but in my personal opinion, she looks hideous. Like, really ugly. The, other humans are just, I guess the other women in that scene may have looked a little bit better than Connie. In fact, a lot more pretty, I would like to say. But, like, all the males in this film just look uncanny and very menacing. Like, the farmer's face when he nearly shoots Rover, and Eddie. I mean, sorry, and Rocky. Like after that part where Rover and Eddie antagonize him once he was in that gangster meeting. He then looks at Rover and Eddie and snarls with really big vicious eyes, and his face it's basically like the human equivalent of like Sharptooth or something. Although he has no sharp teeth, and I know very well why he doesn't, because he's a fucking human, Homo sapien to be precise. But like, that just looks menacing. Like, since the film is also done by Hyperion, the same exact studio that brought you The Brave Little Toaster, the humans in that film don't look nearly that bad. How come in this film they look very uncanny? If they were to take the more realistic body textures and slightly more cartoony facial expressions on them, then that would have worked. Because these uncanny, a little too realistic human designs they just freak me out, man. And the real reason why that this movie disgusts me now is mainly because of the farm animals. They look very uncanny. First, I'll talk about the chickens. Like, they look a bit uncanny. In some areas they don't nearly look as uncanny. But really, I will talk about the ones which I think are the most uncanny. The rooster Chester, I know he looks exactly like Woody Woodpecker or Sonny the Cocoa Puffs bird, but I think his design is really uncanny. He has really big eyes, which are yellow, really small pupils, and just a really uncanny facial expression. There's this Karen chicken that looks kind of like the chickens from, there's this Karen chicken that looks kind of like the chickens from, Home on the Range, but the thing is that this thing looks menacing as hell. Her voice isn't terrible, but her design is quite menacing. There's these two chickens that disgust me the most, that say, he's changed. They just look really uncanny and make me feel extremely uncomfortable. Yeah. But now I'll talk about the farm animals that really get on me. Like, the turkey looks really ugly, and I would say that she looks a lot more appealing when she's dead. Like, really. It just makes my spine tingle when I think about her design. Like, it just looks so ugly. I know that real turkeys look ugly, but if they were to take the route of, like, Chicken Little or something, then she would look a lot better in comparison. The sheep look quite uncanny and a little bit too weird. Like, they have very strange designs and don't really look quite right. The horse looks pretty gross and just looks extremely messed up. Like he has, like, very strange looking eyes, and I would be honest and say that Mr. Horse from Ren and Stimpy looks far more handsome in comparison. But now let's get on to the real reasons why I don't really want to look at this film anymore, as well as, like, And these characters are basically the reason why that this is a podcast instead of a review, for where I actually show you what I mean. The cow is disgusting, man. Like, she gives me the heebie-jeebies. Like, she has so many girly features, and just looks so strange. Like, there's so many wrinkles and so many features on that face. It just makes me feel so grossed out, man. The pigs look really uncanny. Like, they look very menacing, and they also have really beady and intimidating eyes. I just really wish that the farm animals didn't even have to look that bad, because the only appealing farm animals in this film are basically the dogs. Like, they all look pretty realistic and not too bad looking. But yeah, I just really do not like the character designs in this film, and that's the reason why that I'm not reviewing it like the way how I would usually review it. And in fact, I would even say that I wouldn't even review All Dogs Go to Heaven like this. But yeah. And even the wolves gross me out. Like, they all look very strange. Well, if I was a child, they would scare me. But as like a young adult, they look very gross. Especially the wolf without the teeth. But if they were to make them look a little bit cooler, like the way how they were intended to look like as well, then I would be fine. But I really do not like the character designs in this film at all. Like, this film has little to no positives. The animation is all over the place. The character designs are uncanny. The overall of this film is just terrible, man. And even I can direct something better than this. So if you're wanting to watch this movie, watch Cars, because it's a character getting stranded on a countryside setting plot, but actually done better. And if you want to watch a dog movie that's similar to this, which has gambling dogs, watch All Dogs Go to Heaven, because that movie is far better. And if you really want to know why I suffered, I suggest you watch that film. But really, I do not like this film at all, and I would give this movie a -3 out of 10, or -3 out of 10. It's not as horrible as, like, Marmaduke 2021, but it's still freaking bad, man. And yeah, if Rodney Dangerfield was voicing a character who's not just like him, then that would be fine. But really, this movie is pretty bad, and I suggest you don't watch this in case if you want to know how it's like. But if you want to know how I felt about this film, I suggest you do watch it. But anyways, get put down. In my next review, which I endlessly try to predict my Tom and Jerry retrospective, will be minuscule because I need to comfort myself with bugs. But even so, it will also be a podcast, and I will tell you the reasons why, and I'll be more than happy to explain it. So anyways, get put down.